Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to move my long-term dividend portfolio from M1 Finance to Fidelity. I spoke about the reasons why in my previous video, so if you didn't see that, I will link it in the card above and in the description below so you can sort of catch up on the reasons why we're doing this. So when I was looking on YouTube for how to move my account, there wasn't really any video showing it step by step. So I figured, since I'm going to do it anyway, I might as well record the process, and that way you guys can see what's involved. And then, if it's something you've been thinking about doing yourself, but you figured it might be too difficult or too much hassle, then hopefully this will be reassuring and let you know like the process is pretty simple and how to get it done. So the first thing we're going to need, if you don't have one already, is going to be a Fidelity Brokerage account. So let's start there. So if we go over to Google, you can just Google Fidelity and it pretty much comes up as the first result. So let's click on Fidelity. I already have a brokerage account with Fidelity, so I'm not going to create one, but I'll show you that you basically just hit this open an account button here. You choose which type of account it is. So I do have a Roth IRA with them already, but right now the account I'm moving is a taxable account. So if you have a similar thing, you would open a brokerage account. So you just click open now. You say whether it's an individual account, if it's just going to be you on the account, or you want to set one up with your spouse or your partner. But for me, I'm just going to have an individual account. Just press next. If you're already a Fidelity customer, obviously hit yes. If you're not, it just takes a few minutes to open an account, and they're basically going to ask you some details about yourself. So obviously, you're going to go with the standard stuff: name, address, where you're from, where you live. And then obviously it's going to ask you some of the like tax implications questions. That's why they want your social security number, for example. Once you fill all that out and you open your taxable account, you will be able then to transfer your M1 account into Fidelity. So let's go back to the Fidelity account and assume that you've already opened your account. All right, so let's go back to fidelity.com. This time we'll log into our account. And then if you go to account and trade at the top, you'll see there's transfers. So you can just click transfers then. This obviously shows the most common transfer tasks, from like ways to deposit money into the account, etc. But if you scroll down, it shows you that you can transfer an account to Fidelity. It gives you a little bit of information about that, and then you can start a transfer. One of the things it's saying is make sure you have a recent statement from your current firm. So if you do have M1, we will need to pull a statement. So before we start this transfer, let's look at how we download a statement and get our account numbers from M1. Okay, so if we flip back over to the M1 portfolio, you can see that at the top here, you have your username. If you click on that, you can see view account settings. So we have to click that next. And then across the top with these tabs, we're looking for our account number. So that is going to be on a statement under documents. And as you can see, we just received the October brokerage statement. So we'll click that and that will download a PDF. And then when we open the PDF, right at the top here, it shows your account number. Obviously, I'm going to blur mine out so y'all can't see it. But that's where you find your account number that you're going to need to start this transfer. Okay, so let's go back to the Fidelity tab and hit Start a Transfer. We need to select our firm, which is M1 Finance. Obviously hit Next. Then it's going to ask for this account number, which we pulled from the PDF. So Let's go back and grab that real quick. You just obviously highlight your account number. You can copy it and then paste it straight in here. And you have to choose what account type you had. So if you're not sure what type of account you had, you can go to M1. You can go to your username, account settings again, and then click on accounts. And as you will see here, I have a few accounts open, but the one we're moving is called Passive Money Pie, and that is an individual account. So if we go back to the Fidelity tab, hit the drop down and select individual and then hit next. I already have an existing account with Fidelity, so I'm just going to hit this button. Like I said before this, it's easier if you do already have an account. That's why I suggested opening one before you do the transfer. But if you haven't done that step and you want to skip it, you can open a new account right now. But I have an account, so I'll hit existing account. My main portfolio here is the taxable brokerage account. So I'm going to select that one and then hit next. So it's asking if you want to move specific positions from M1 Finance or a full account transfer. I want to move my entire portfolio. So I'm going to hit yes to this and then hit next. And then it's just going to reiterate the details. So I'm transferring from M1 Finance, my individual account, to my main portfolio on Fidelity, and this transfer type is a full account. So by selecting submit, I'm agreeing to the terms and conditions. You can view the terms and conditions right here, but I mean, it's pretty standard stuff. So I'm going to submit that right now. And that is basically it for now. We've submitted the request. Fidelity will reach out to M1, provide them with my request. M1 will then confirm my request and start transferring my assets to Fidelity. And then my assets will be deposited into my brokerage account. So from what I understand is they will sell your fractional shares off and only transfer whole shares. Now, I haven't been able to really find anything to confirm this, but M1 uses fractional shares and Fidelity uses fractional shares. So there's a good chance that they may just transfer the fractionals over. But what I would say to you is, though, if you want, you can go to your M1 portfolio, go to holdings, and you can look down your amount of shares. And if you're close to a full share or not, you can either buy a little more before you start this process, or just accept the fact that the fraction is going to get sold off and the whole share amount will be transferred over. Obviously, the cash balance will come with it, so you don't have to worry about that. But what I did prior to this transfer is I purchased like the missing part of my fraction. So as you can see here, all of my shares are like 0.0. So as you go down the list here, you can see that I bought them all up to a whole share, so that there's only going to be a tiny bit of sell-off on my account if the fractions don't transfer over. So that's one thing to bear in mind if you are going to do this transfer. Just be prepared for either to sell the fractions if you don't sort of even out your shares. It's pretty easy to do. I mean, you can just round up to the nearest share, like calculate the difference, and then times that by the current share price, and you'll get your the dollar amount that you have to invest. This is one of the reasons that I want to move from M1 is there's no real good way of saying I want to purchase 0.5 of a share. You literally have to click into your shares, just hit buy, and then type in a dollar amount. So, if the share price today is $23 and I say I want, $23 worth of that share, and the share price goes up before M1 decides to buy it, then I don't end up with the whole share. So I'm beginning to not like the lack of control here. So that's why I'm moving to Fidelity. And the other thing actually to bear in mind is M1 is probably going to charge me a transfer fee. I've heard this can be up to about $100. But before I started this transfer process, I spoke to Fidelity and they said that they will happily cover the transfer fee and give me that into my account. So all I have to do is once I have this transfer completed and I see the charge, I can just submit that to Fidelity and they'll reimburse me for it. Okay, so it's now day 2 of the transfer process. I logged into M1 Finance to see a notification that says that my account is now paused, basically disabling all trade-in facilities on my brokerage account. As you zoom in here, you can see that the message says, "Thanks for giving M1 a shot. Looks like you're transferring out of M1 and we're sad to see you go. If you change your mind and you want to start investing with us again, just open a new account." So that's what happens on day 2. Basically, all trading facilities are paused and the account is on hold temporarily. On the Fidelity side, we see in the transfer status windows that it's moved from submitted to being processed by Fidelity, which basically just means that M1 and Fidelity have started the process between them, hence my account's on paused. We can also see in the top right of this image that the estimated completion date is November the 9th. So they do give you an idea that it's going to take about 7 days. Okay, so on to day 3. As I log into M1 Finance, the first thing I notice is I now have a cash balance of $594. So unfortunately, my suspicions were correct. It looks like that M1 has sold my fractional shares off. As I move over to the activities tab here, you can see all these different trades that have occurred. So this is definitely something to bear in mind. Your shares will get rounded down to the nearest whole unit. I think luckily I thought this was going to be the case, so I rounded up the shares that I wanted. The other thing with this is obviously now I've created a lot of taxable events. Fortunately, I've held a lot of these positions for over a year, so they're going to be subject to long-term capital gains. But this is definitely something to bear in mind when you're doing this transfer process. As you can see, I had around 40 positions that have sold off, so that's a lot of events that has occurred. And now as we scroll down my holdings, you can see that I do only have whole units. I like the idea of having full shares, to be honest. When I move this to Fidelity, I think as the dividends accumulate, I will use that to purchase shares at a limit price, like whole shares at a limit price, as opposed to letting it drip. That way I have slightly more control over my positions, and it's easier when you want to import that information into a sheet to, make graphs and project dividend income and things like that. It's going to be a lot easier with whole units as opposed to having lots of fractions. So, these are definitely things to bear in mind when you're doing this transfer process, or when you're thinking about starting this transfer process. Definitely round up your shares if you want them. You will have some fractional share sell-off. What I can tell is that the cash balance will move over to my account with the trades, and I assume M1 Finance is going to charge me $100 and take that out of that cash balance during this process too. So we'll see what happens next as the process continues and we move into the next stage of this transfer process. So it's been about 7 days now since we started this transfer process. My account balance now shows on the main portfolio page in Fidelity. It's a lot higher than it was when I started this transfer process. That's because we had the conclusion to the presidential election and some vaccine information that rallied the stock market. So my account kind of jumped up about $3,000 over the last week, which is nice. If we click the positions tab, you can now see that all my holdings are here. One thing to bear in mind, on day 5 and 6, you can sort of see your holdings mirrored in M1 Finance and Fidelity at the same time. So they're sort of in both places, but you can't trade on either account. It took probably an extra 2 days after my holdings had sort of settled in this Fidelity account for the cost basis to come through as well. So On sort of day 7, you see your holdings, you can start trading again. But the gains and losses you see are only from the current share price on a day-to-day basis. And it's not until your cost basis information transfers over that you get your true profit and loss for your account. So that's definitely something to expect to happen. Like I thought, M1 Finance did take $100 account fee from my balance that was showing on M1. So I had $594 after they sold off my fractional shares. They transferred $494 over to Fidelity and took their $100 out of that. As soon as I saw that, I called Fidelity customer service. Their representative checked my account, saw the fee, and deposited the reimbursed $100 back into my new brokerage account within about 2 minutes. It was a super simple process. So that's basically, why I've moved to a full service brokerage like Fidelity, because M1's great when you're starting out and you don't have much money. But, as your portfolio grows, it's really nice to be able to have somebody to call with any questions. I've called Fidelity a few times in the past, mainly regarding some stuff to do with options on my Roth IRA. But you always get the answer that you need to help you out. And that's definitely something that's worth considering as you become a bigger investor. One thing I didn't know about this brokerage account before my stocks came over was that there's this dividend view tab right here. If you click that, you basically get all of your holdings with the ex-dividend dates that are coming up, the pay dates, and the amount per share that's going to pay out. So that is a really cool feature that I didn't know existed. Usually I use a lot of Google Sheets for this information. So it's really cool just to be able to, click a button and grab this information. So, if I've got a little bit of money I'm ready to invest, I can, flip over to the dividend view tab, check out what ex-dividend dates are coming up for some of my holdings. And if it's something I think is, value at the time I'm going to buy, like, why not buy one with the ex-dividend date so I get a little bit of a bigger payout for that month? So, yeah, that's it, guys. Basically, that's the whole transfer process. I hope you guys found some value in this video. If it's something you're thinking about doing, like, hopefully you got the answers you were looking for. Obviously, if you do have any questions regarding any part of this transfer process, let me know in the comments and I'll be really happy to help you out. So if this video was what you were looking for to help you transfer your accounts and you did find value in it, please drop a like below. It really helps me out. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. I'm trying to bring you guys the content that you're looking for to, help us all become financially free. And until next time, guys, I hope you have a really good week and I'll see you next time.